and we are going to go into the details of those stories a little later on the program. But for now, we are talking GMOs, and just a quick background to this issue. The Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity, ZAAB, has been following the revision of the National Biotechnology and Biosafety Policy since 2017. Now, through engagement with the Ministry of Higher Education and now Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, which anchors that National Biosafety Authority, ZAAB had managed to store the national validation of the draft policy. Now, on the 22nd and the 22nd of June 2022, the Minister of Green Economy and Environment instructed the NBA not to proceed with the national validation of the draft policy until they were considered ZAAB's concerns. Now, on the 7th of July, the NBA invited ZAAB for a meeting to provide alternative text for the policy, but not to present their objectives to the introduction of the living GMO in agriculture sector. It was clear during the meeting that the NBA were set on introducing GMOs in the country. Now, through this policy, and the national validation will take place sooner rather than later. So now we do have in the studios with us somebody from ZAAB to tell us about how far the organization has gone in the fight to ensure that these GMOs, we are moving on the same page. Now, we do have Madam Mutinta Nketani with us in the studio this morning. Madam, thank you very much for making it to Prime Daybreak. Welcome to this interview.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Firstly, maybe just bring us to speed with this particular matter.
Yeah, so you have given a very comprehensive background. We had started with the engagement. I mean, we started engaging way back. And fortunately for us, the current Minister of Green Economy allowed us to, engage at a very high level with the NBA and also ministry officials. So as at the time that background was provided, we had engaged with the NBA, and we were of the view that they were going to go ahead because we were not allowed to present our concerns to them. They called a technical meeting where we were just providing text into the draft, alternative text into the draft policy. Now, the interesting thing is that since then, and let me just say that during the time that we interacted with the NBA and high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Green Economy, we had an opportunity to introduce back the precautionary principle as well as the redress, the liability and redress principles, and the NBA was quite receptive to the fact, they admitted to the fact that indeed these were provisions that had been weakened in the draft as per our assertions. So they admitted that, and we agreed together with them on the text that could strengthen these provisions if this draft policy went ahead to be validated. The other, I think the other positive thing that came out of that meeting was the fact that there were some inconsistencies in terms of the way it was presented, and together again during that meeting we agreed on how some of those sections could be reframed in order to reflect not just consistency but also the level of articulation that people would be able to understand easily. Yeah. The only thing was that the draft in its form at that time remained as it was in terms of opening up basically promotional towards the introduction of living genetically modified organisms in the agricultural sector. And our final message to them at the time was that we have done this, but we still hold our position that it would actually not be the right thing to introduce living GMOs in the agricultural sector. That is propagation of GMO seed, planting and selling and everything that goes with it. Since then, we have engaged again with the minister through another forum, and he has actually been gracious enough to invite us for another meeting. And since then, there's been two statements, one from the Minister of Green Economy himself and the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Toro. And what is coming out is that the position of the Ministry of Green Economy and the Ministry of Agriculture is still that the GMOs, live GMOs in the agricultural sector are still not allowed as at now. And the process of reviewing the policy is still undergoing consultations. So we are happy to hear that there is further consultations, and also the position on whether that in its form the draft will be taken to validation or not. That stage has not yet come, which means that we still have room to engage, and we are so grateful to the minister for giving us that opportunity again. Yeah.
Now, what really is your concern as an organization about GMOs?
Yeah. So our concerns as an organization, as a network of organizations, civil society organizations, farmer groups, and interested individuals, is that the introduction of GMOs actually is just one of the ways that multinational corporations are consolidating their hold over our food system. You see, food is the new weapon of control over, it's a new weapon of colonization. And when you look at our food system, it's already in foreign hands. We heard about the war in Ukraine. We were not even there. I mean, like, we just hear about it and we see things on TV. But the effects have been reflected through the rise in the prices of agricultural inputs. Fertilizers right now, if you go in the shop, a bag of D compound is not less than 800 kwacha, 1,000 kwacha, you know, around that much. And all this is being attributed to the effects of the Ukraine war. And we see that he who controls food, you know, controls you, because everybody eats. Everybody has to eat. Yeah. The other concern that we have with regards to GMOs is they are not a solution to what our challenges are. Our challenges in this country, and with regards to the agricultural sector, have to do with low productivity, resulting in food and nutrition insecurity and hunger. And we are saying that this is not a solution, because an example of Kenya where BT maize was piloted for 10 years, you know, 10 years of investment, and then a project was abandoned because they realized in the end that the resulting seed that came out of that GMO investment was actually more expensive than the farmers could afford, as small-scale farmers could afford, and it had to be abandoned. So you can see that this will not solve our challenges of food and nutrition. But we are also concerned about the contamination of our local seeds. We do have quite a lot of local seeds, actually. You know about kankata, you see that colorful maize and all that, and especially that the current draft is really talking about the subjecting our strategic crops to GM technology. Yeah, so we are very concerned about that, because once those genes are released, once you plant, the bees won't select where to sit. They will transfer pollen from GM to the next, and when there are any adverse effects, you can't recall them. You see, the difference with fertilizer is we put it in the soil. Over time, you can reverse the effects that fertilizer has had on the soil. But environmental release means that you can't recall those genes. They go, they move with the wind, they move with the bees, they move with the beetles and everything. So we have a challenge, and mostly this is because most of the GM technologies in agriculture are still experimental, to a very large extent, are still experimental, and the larger effects of these GMOs are not really understood, even by the scientists themselves. But we have also seen that in countries where this has been introduced, like South Africa, I think, has been growing GM maize for a very long time, the plight of small-scale farmers has not improved. If anything, they've been getting poorer and poorer. Same as any other country where these technologies have been introduced. Yeah, so we do have quite a lot of concerns, but we are also concerned about the loss to our biodiversity in terms of the environmental effects, but also our agro biodiversity. The conventional farming, which uses a lot of chemicals, is what GMOs will just like strengthen this, because most of the grain seeds that are propagated through GM technologies are currently the ones that are existing are so-called Roundup Ready, that is glyphosate. Now we know glyphosate is a very dangerous and a chemical to human health as well as environmental health, because when you spray a herbicide, even if it's selective, it is only selective to, say, maize or that particular species of crop. Everything else dies in its wake. And what you remain with is a monocultural way of farming, where when you plant maize, it is just maize. And in most cases, it is just maize nowadays. So we have lost a lot of our biodiversity, and also it affects the life of other plants, trees, birds, insects. Everything is affected by the amount of chemicals that we use, and we are going to have this amplified further when we introduce GMOs. So I can go on and on about the concerns. They're quite substantial.
You in the introduction, we did notice that on the 7th you were invited for a meeting with NBA.
Yes.
And what came out of that meeting was that you noticed that the NBA is focused on introducing the GMOs. How do you feel that you are making progress with your demands in your interactions with government? And what are these demands that you are taking there?
Yep. So we feel that we are making progress, yes. Yeah. At the time that we interacted with the NBA on the 7th, we did have the view that they were set, going ahead with validation of this policy. But like I said, we've since had interactions with the ministry now, the Minister of Green Economy, as early as recent as yesterday, and he actually guided on the fact that the NBA has delegated authority. The ministry, through its structures, and to the NBA, are the ones that decide as a whole whether to go ahead and validate the policy in its current form or alter it. So that process is still ongoing, because like they said, it hasn't even reached stages of going around to the other ministries for the ministries to have a comment on it. So it's still, they have taken it a step back. Yeah, so you can say that it is still in its consultative stage, which is something that the NBA had already said it had passed through that process. So yeah, we feel that we are making progress, because the Minister of Green Economy has an open door policy, and he's been quite receptive to our interaction with him. So he would invite us himself, actually inviting us. So yesterday he pushed up another invitation to say we can meet again, and we are grateful for that. But the outcome of that meeting is what I had alluded to earlier, about having just, strengthened some of the clauses that could protect human, plant, and animal life in case of the introduction of live GMOs. The other thing that makes us believe that we are making progress is the fact that the two ministers have made two statements publicly, saying that Zambia remains GMO free as far as propagation of GMO crops is concerned. Yes, although although we are hopeful, we are also aware that there are other, groups that are working in the opposite of what we are doing. So we are yet to hear. We are yet to get the final draft, and also get the final position of the ministry, both the Ministry of Green Economy and Ministry of Agriculture. I think we need to agree on a final position. But we are happy so far with the progress made.
I know that my colleague also has one or two questions to ask, but you have noticed that there are some organizations that are working the opposite direction as you. Have you tried some like public awareness?
This is what we are doing now. Yeah, so this is what we have started now is, and I actually indicated to the minister that after all that we have submitted and the interactions that we've had, our role now will be public awareness programs. So this is part of the public awareness programs. This is just one. We have 10 in a series of TV programs on different TV stations, and we hope that we can get the the public to understand why we have this position. Yeah, and we would also want to get the public involved in not just in not in campaigning but also in understanding what this implies. You see, GMOs are not a small issue. They're a very big issue. Even where they are coming from, there are a lot of issues there, and people are still so skeptical about them. So yeah, we are doing public awareness campaigns now.
Last time you came here, you talked about public awareness. You're talking about public awareness. You talked about engagement, and again, you've talked about engagement. Is there a time frame with these engagements that you're having with the relevant ministries?
Yeah, there is a time frame. The time frame has to do with how engagement and consultations are long-term, kind of. Like I said, these engagements started not even 2017, but as far back as 2013. And in some cases, the awareness around GMOs came around 2010, when after the 2002, President Manwasa refusing to accept GMO maize from America, even when people were going hungry and all that. So it was quiet until 2010, when some pressure groups now started thinking about altering the policy in order to allow for GMOs to come into Zambia. So we've been aware about this since 2010, and then eventually 2013, the actual process of looking at the policy started, but the first consultations, like formal consultations from the ministry to all stakeholders started around 2017, and we've been engaging since then. So engagement, yes, will have to be throughout. And this is because we are working with the government, not against them. Yeah, we are trying as much as possible to, we are not here as civil society organizations to fight or antagonize the government. We are here to work with them, provide alternatives where possible, and also ensure that the right thing is done for all Zambians. So engagement can go on even for years, like it has, and it might continue. When it comes to public awareness, we have had public awareness campaigns before through webinars. We didn't get much leeway through webinars, so we hope that through radio and TV we might get more people to listen to what we are talking about. Yeah. So I don't know when this public awareness, the engagements are going to end. It will depend on how we keep liaising with the ministry.
So as we come to the end of this interview, what are your concluding remarks?
My concluding remarks would be that we have alternatives to these silver bullet kind of solutions. We have been told, introduce fertilizer, it will improve your yields, and people will be food secure. That has not happened. Now we are being told GMOs will bring prosperity, they'll bring food security. We are very skeptical about whether that will happen. In fact, we are sure that it will not lead to that. So we have alternatives that we are proposing, which is agroecology, which looks at the entire environment and how our farming activities interact with the environment, but also how we help to regenerate environments, to revamp environments that have been depleted due to agriculture and other activities. So my appeal to the viewers out there is that they need to be interested, not just in the GMO issues, but in everything that will impact the environment. We owe it to posterity, we owe it to people that have gone before us, to understand exactly what these issues mean for us. To me, what does this mean? What does it mean to my children and their children after that? So that would be my appeal. The other thing I would like to say as we conclude is that we are grateful to the minister. Mm-hmm. He has been, so far he has been very receptive, but he's also been very proactive in calling for this meeting and saying, let's sit down at a round table and discuss these issues. Mm-hmm. The Minister of Green Economy stands over. So we are very grateful, but we are also happy that we have a minister who is able to at least guide in terms of the direction of policy, and he's been very explicit about what is pertaining now, and the fact that the stage of decision has not yet been reached. They've taken a step back so that the process can go through of consultations and reviewing and re-looking at it and saying, is this the right way to go? Or maybe there are other alternatives that are much more effective than going the GMO route. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Madam Tintadak, thank you very much for making an appearance on Prime Daybreak.
Thank you so much, and thanks to the viewers.
So we have been talking to Madam Mutintanketani from ZAAB, and we were talking about GMOs. So on that note, we take another short break, and when we